So, getting started on another build. So, here we have it. This is not a build for sale. This is a build for my own usage. This is going to be my, probably, I haven't decided yet, but probably my final iteration 4th gen build. I had one already, and there were a few things I wanted changed. I ended up going with this ASUS Z97 Hero. Is it Maximus? I think it's a Maximus Z97 Hero. There were a few things I liked better about it than my Gigabyte UD5 board. But the other thing is, this one does not have an I/O shield, and I think I may do an ultra budget 4th gen, or I might even do a 4th gen SLI build for sale, but specifically advertise. Obviously, it's no use for somebody that wants something modern. I may do that and specifically advertise it as a retro SLI rig for somebody that wants that. I don't even know if there's a market for that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I have no idea, so I kind of might want to experiment with it. And that board has its I/O shield, and this one doesn't, and I find that it's just a good housekeeping thing to have the I/O shield, so they're approximately the same level board. This one did have a Noctua NH D15 on it. I decided I wanted to use that. It's got 32 gigs of, what the heck is this? I think it's Trident, is it Trident Z? Yeah, Trident Z, and it's really fast. It's like, I think it's the fastest DDR3 you could get. It is, I think it's, yeah, it's 2133, which is the same speed as entry-level DDR4. And then I got a full load of, these are Corsair, I believe they are blue, just single color blue LED, ML 120 and 140. So the fronts are going to be the ML 140s, and everything else will be, there'll be maybe two in the top of the case. Then I have this. This is a EVGA 850 BQ. Apparently my video is reversed, but it should be visible. I actually used this one because when I got it, it had a bad fan. I opened it up, I replaced the fan, I didn't wire it to the power supply, I actually just left the cable, and I'm gonna manually run the off of one of the headers, or maybe even just straight off of a Molex adapter. I've done it on systems I've sold. I would rather, since I have plenty of power supplies, I would rather not sell a system with a jankified power supply. It's not that big of a deal, but when I sell systems, I don't like giving any ammunition to question the quality, legitimacy, validity, whatever you want to say, of my builds. So I used to do this kind of stuff. Now I prefer to just do it right, if you know what I mean. And then this is just a placeholder. This is the GTX 780 that I'm kind of playing around with right now. This build is going to be used for anything that it's relevant to. So like I do, sometimes I go on like Reddit and I look at old posts and I see, okay, what were people actually running with this hardware? My guess is we're going to test stuff as old as potentially GTX 580, and potentially as new as, because I know back in the day I sold 4th gen builds with 1080s on them, so I'll probably do GTX 580 through GTX 1080, which is a wide range, and then I'll probably do SLI. Like I've got a pair of Zotac 680s, 4 gigs that will probably SLI. I have a pair of GTX 770s will probably SLI. I've got a 690 that would be appropriate for this build. So this is going to be used for, shall we say, testing in the native environment for a number of these GPUs. And then as far as AMD, this would be appropriate for, I have a boxed pair of R9 290s, or 290Xs. I think I have a 280X, maybe a pair of 280Xs. I've got a 290X. I've got an R9 390X2. I've got a R9 295X2, which actually is in a box, unopened box. This is going to be the build for that hardware. So I was going to maybe do a build for sale today, but I really need to just get this hardware into a case and out of my hair because it's just sitting around until I get it in the case right now. So I'm going to do the build. And and I believe there's so many different versions of this case, but I believe I nailed this down. I believe it is a Corsair Obsidian 450D. So I believe this is the smallest version. The largest one that I have is the 750D. I guess they have an 850 and a 900, but for this exact style, there's some changes with those. For this exact style, I believe this is the smaller version. And for this build, we don't need it to be. It's a big. I mean, it's a large mid tower. We don't need massive for this build, so we're gonna do this one in there. So stay tuned, and we will get a system built. So let's get started here. So hopefully, considering how much pre-work I've done, this one will be fairly quick. Hopefully an hour. So we're just gonna drop our board, chip, and RAM combo that's already assembled right on there. This case does have a set of hard drive bays that sits like right in this area. I have moved to mostly external. I used to like to put a drive in each of my machines for games, but I've been finding that USB 3, if you have a high performance enclosure, the connection and transfer rate is high enough that I can use that instead of internals. And the thing with that is that I have such a big Steam library at this point, and I really like to have access to my whole library because I never know what I want to test. Dang it. So because I never know what I want to test. Oh, come on. This is always the biggest pain. Yeah, because I never know what I actually want to test until I go to do it. It's just nice to be able to have the whole library there. That's actually the primary reason why I stopped pirating games. I used to be like the game pirate extraordinaire, but now having the convenience of just having a Steam library with everything, it's pretty nice, I got to admit. That's also why I stopped using Epic for anything other than Fortnite, is because Epic, because I had several $100s of Epic purchased games, which I'm kind of annoyed about, but Epic doesn't allow you to transfer your, like, it's not portable. So you have to install. I mean, I've done some research. There's some ways that you can move it around, but it's not convenient, not in the way that that Steam is. Steam, you just have the games loaded on a drive, and you just toss that drive in any computer and point Steam at that drive, and you're good to go. Okay, so we're gonna put this one in with the standard installation method of putting the dry or the fan pulling air off of the exterior. Let's see here. So it's just a run-of-the-mill hard drive installation, or not hard drive installation, power supply installation. So I build these builds because I guess there's two frames of thought on this. There's, gosh darn it, knocked my stack of side panels over. There's the let's push the GPU as hard as we can, you know, load it into a modern, like something like a 13900K, 7800X3D, something like that, and see how far we can push it. And then there's the let's see how far we can push it, but using what I would call native hardware. So the hardware that the system actually, or that the part would have actually originally been coexisting with, rather than newer modern hardware that no one ever would have tested it with. So I guess there's two frames of thought on that. I mean, I like to do both, but quite a bit of these GPUs that I test aren't completely irrelevant yet. Like, a lot of these GPUs are cards that people would use, like that, you know, gosh darn it, and I just almost knocked all that over again. Like, these are GPUs that, you know, your nephew that's 15 is going to end up using when they're, you know, when their uncle buys a new gaming computer. Like, some of these are still relevant GPUs, and they're not going to get used on, you know, you're not going to pair a GTX 780 Ti with a 13900K. Like, that's not what you're going to do. And so I like to test them on the hardware that you're actually going to see them used with. And, you know, it's fun to see, you know, for a lot of us, like, I've only been able to afford to do what you guys see me doing on this channel for a fairly short period of time, like 2 years, realistically. Like, my ability to just go out and just buy stuff to play with. I'll make sure it's funny, with how bright the light is on here, I'm having trouble seeing how well the lighting is working on with the camera. Where is it? Where are you? Oh, I guess it's closer to that one. Yeah, like, only recently have I been able to get to the point where I can just go out and buy stuff for fun, like this. And so, or no, well, in the past, what I would have had to do with something like this is, if I got this hardware, because this build, it'll probably be, I mean, once it's done with how nice this build's going to be, I mean, this will probably be a $300 or $400 build. I mean, I know some people will dispute that, oh, you can't use hardware like that in a build that expensive, but I mean, you can if you do good builds. And mine are good builds with good parts. And so in the past, the way this would have gone down is I would have had a couple of days to play with it before it sold. But now, a lot of this hardware, I can justify just holding on to it and playing with it. This, you're not gonna, there's no way for me to make this visible on camera. These really large heat sinks can present a challenge. Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Normally, you don't want to put a heatsink on like this until you have everything else done. But In this case, I had already installed it, and originally it was for a different build, and so I was like, you know, I don't feel like jacking with it. Okay, so, oh, that's interesting. This doesn't have any, this doesn't have almost any cable tie downs. That's funny. So we're going to have to make our own on this one. So on this, we're going to put one right here. And then what we're going to do, okay, so we put it in. So then the way that I do this is I actually use the cable tie itself as the tie down. So I tie cables to the cable tie. See, like that? Because even if you have a case that doesn't have the cable tie downs that you want, usually they have some sort of hole somewhere. And if you're creative with it, you can usually turn those holes into your tie downs if it doesn't have the ones that you want. So same thing here. This is a hole for, these are for the hard drive caddies, which, like I said, we're probably not going to use. We're just going to use the one, same thing with that one. We're just going to use the one M.2 that I was able to put on the board, and then everything else, because this is, so Z97 is the first, well, Z97 and X99, I'm not sure which one came first. They came out around the same time. But Z97 was the first kind of generation of hardware where you saw M.2 on the boards. Before that, for one or two generations of hardware, we had something called mini SATA, and they called it M-SATA. And M-SATA was, and you actually still see that. You saw that on some 4th gen. On Z87, those boards typically had an M-SATA. M-SATA was kind of the precursor, but it wasn't really anything special. M-SATA, all it was a miniature SATA port. It was literally a SATA port that had been miniaturized. And so it, like, I believe it read as a standard SATA port. Okay. So let's see if I can use, I don't know if this will work or not. I don't know if there's space under here or not. No, is there? Okay, there we go. Now this one, I'm tying the, let's do this. Let's go there. Bam. See, kind of surprised that this has as few tie downs as it does, because usually these cases, even though they're a little bit older, usually these cases have decent tie downs on them. The Obsidian cases, but I guess not this one. So then, once I have the main cables in place, I'm going to use another trick, which is attaching the additional cables that I need to just straight to the other cables that are already in place. What are we at? What am I at? 12 minutes. Okay. So we have, I mean, I guess this doesn't really count, though, because I have, like, 50% of a pre-assembled system here, so technically it's cheating, but... Okay, so we're going to want... We're going to want to put these in. So, if this was a build for sale, I would not just dump all the PCIe ports or PCIe plugs right into the case. But because this is a build, I mean, you know what? I was going to do fans on this one first, and I totally forgot. Now I'm annoyed. That's okay. So let's put these, we're going to just tuck these down in the corner there. We're probably not going to end up using any SATA ports or SATA plugs on this one because I'm not running any fan controllers. I'm not running any extra LEDs. This is entirely that'll fit perfect right there. And then these have space. You just want to make sure, because these, I believe that the lock-in pins to lock the side panel in go through these, so you gotta make sure you're not where any of those need to go. Okay, and then this, let's see, let's zip tie those two guys together to keep them as one. Actually, let's just do, well, that was weird. Oh, my light just went out. Huh. Hopefully nothing's overheating. That's odd. Wonder what happened. Oh. My cable's coming out. Yeah, you guys can see the difference when that light goes out. You can't see anything. There we go. Okay. I should start rating my builds by number of zip ties that they use. Okay, so we're good there. And then let's see here. Where do we want to go? I guess I probably should have checked. What do I got for fan? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're going to need to do a splitter. Let's see, let's do... Let's split this one. This is actually quite a few fan plugs. It's actually more than I was expecting. When I was counting them, I was thinking there'd be like 3 of them or something, but this is actually more than I was expecting. Okay, so we put that there. I think that's good. There we go. Okay, so that's there. And then we'll just kind of put this one over here. And just kind of hide that there. Probably zip tie that to there. So that one that I just ran that I'm connecting right now, is the custom fan that I put inside the power supply. So it's really that simple. You just connect it to any other fan plug and you're good to go. Okay, let's see how we have these guys. So I wish they were all the same length. Oh, that's from a different power supply. But it's compatible. You can usually get away with it if it's the same manufacturer. Trying to think if I want to have Yeah, we'll just put them down there for now. Keep them out of the way. Maybe not. That doesn't want to work. Just set them there. It's fine for now. Because we want those in, because we're going to be testing. Sometimes we'll have 2 cards in here. Sometimes we'll have 1 card in here, but we want to be able to easily access those. So I don't really like tucking them behind. So let's do, so the bottom one is going to be our I/O. I'm trying to see if I have one of those special Antec I/O, not Antec, ASUS I/O plug thingies. I thought I had one sitting around here. In fact, I thought I pulled one off this, but not seeing it. So we'll just, you can kind of tell, those ones are labeled, so those are actually easy to do. Okay, so where did it put USB 3? Right there? Yeah, typical location. So it's going to go here. Probably try to tuck the rest of this out of the way up there. So when you're running USB 3 front panel headers, you want to be really careful. It's very easy because they're very rigid, and so they stick up like this. It's really easy to damage. So you want to be careful when you're running those. I like to run it next to the standard 24 pin if possible, but as you can kind of see there, yeah, it just sticks straight up, so it's a pain in the butt. You can't really, the only way you can really manage it is if you have one of the boards. So some boards have USB 3.0 plugs that stick out that way. And those ones you can manage a little easier, but this style, you just got to be careful with it, and there's not really a whole lot else you can do. Well, I mean, I guess you can go on Amazon or whatever. Nobody's going to think about that. I didn't even think about it. No one's going to think about it. You can go on Amazon and buy right angle plugs. That's an option. You got to think about that before you do your build, though. Okay, so we're going to zip tie. So, and these are really thick cables, and you want to be careful not to damage them, because they are easily damageable. And of course, this doesn't matter. Most of this doesn't matter as much, because this is a build for me, but I've never actually built in this case. I've built in a bunch of 750Ds, but it's only recently that I began to do builds where I had a reason to use a case like this. And so I would have used a case like this back when these were current, because I was doing builds. I'm been around a little longer than some of you, but I was doing builds back when this case would have been current. And I would have used it. Come on, don't tell me that that's not long enough. So this is another thing. I don't ever use front panel audio myself, but again, I try to do all the builds right now. I used to do that. I used to say, okay, it's not a customer build. I don't need to do it right. But now I try to do it right so I don't get lazy when I do need to do it right, you know? Okay, so what is there? Oh, that's those. Okay, so that's good. Let's see here. We are really tight on this one. Let's do this. I wish they offered this style of case, this Obsidian style case, but with a glass side panel. I don't think that these actually are that obsolete. Well, this one is because it needs some more cable tie downs. But normally this style of Corsair case really is still reasonably relevant. Let's do this. Let's actually attach this. We'll put those there, position them right there, and then we can do whatever we want inside the case once I've got it built and figure out how I want to cable manage the PCIe. Okay. And then, wow, those aren't very long. That's actually, what do they got going on here? Okay, so they're going to go down there. Let's just do this. Let's put them underneath here. And we're going to have to run it all right there. Okay. Okay, so this is going to actually be easy to do with the way that this is set up right now. So we're going to do power. Now, if you look at this and you wonder on this, I believe, let's see, hard drive plus minus. I believe that both power switch and reset switch, I think they do have plus minus, so positive, negative, but it doesn't actually matter. Because all they do is complete the circuit. Let's see here. This is a little odd of a setup. Okay. Now let's see if this actually turns on. Do I have... Ooh, I don't have a power cable handy. Let's see here. Do I have... Yeah, I guess I do have one here. So we're not making sure it really works. We're just making sure that the power switch does what I want. It seemed to have a little bit of an odd... So let's just plug this in real quick. Let's see. So if I did it right, and it appears I did not. This is quite odd. Okay, I just had them backwards. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, and one way you can actually tell that it's working, this isn't a guarantee. Sometimes this isn't the case, but typically, when the computer's working properly, you can press the power button, one press of the power button, and then like 5 seconds in, if it's on BIOS the way it should be, or it's in the startup phase, shall we say, the post phase, one press of the power button usually turns it off. If you get a situation where one press of the power button, oh, that's kind of dirty. Oh, that's really dirty. If you have a situation where one press of the power button doesn't turn it off and you have to press and hold, that's usually, not always, but usually an indication that you are frozen at BIOS and that you've got something wrong. That's one of the last things I check when I have a system that I think is defective. Okay, so this one, let's do this. So I'm going to want to keep this cabling out of the way. So we're going to put in this fan first. You're going to go how I want you to. Come on. Okay, so then that'll go here. To be honest, you actually technically don't need a fan here. Let me get a flashlight so I can make sure that went in right. So when you have a big air cooler like this, generally speaking, you can get away with running without an exhaust. I'm going to do it just because I'm doing a complete build here, but you don't actually have to have an exhaust fan here for this type of cooling setup. Oh, that's funny. And the fan wires are starting to come out the back because I don't have an I/O shield. Let's see. And I need fan screws. Let's see here. So it looks like the case is only actually set up for a 120 in this location. Now, and I do believe that these glow single color blue as well. So I kind of wanted it. I mean, look, these are just test builds for working with hardware, but I do like them to look good because sometimes the builds will be on camera. Or they're going to be on camera, shall I say. Okay. So that's the first one. I'm thinking I might only do two. I'm thinking I'm going to do one on the back and one on the top. Okay. Luckily these cables are really long. That makes them easier to work with. Which is actually kind of a necessity because this air cooler is really kind of in the way. Come on. Okay. Now we gotta kind of hold this in place. Let's see here. Okay, that was not as bad as I was expecting. Let's see. It's got these rubber grommets, which, to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of. And you can actually kind of tell that they are fairly aged. There, that one just kind of poked out. Let's see if I can, yeah, we'll just, yeah, do that. That's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect on these. But yeah, you can tell that they have kind of worn over the years. They're not really in the best of condition. I'd rather them have just had metal on metal if they were going to wear like that. Okay, and then where are we going to put that one? I'm thinking I'll just run it to the, oh, there's one right up top there. Oh, that's interesting. Let's, I mean, I guess there's one already up there, so we'll just have to run it back around. This is going to be a pain in the butt. Okay, so we put that there. And hopefully I can get my hand. Ugh. Come on. Now getting these things lined up to actually, I cannot show this on video. I apologize. Okay, so it's in a really weird, I'm gonna have to flashlight it. Okay, actually it's not gonna be as hard as I thought, so I'm in luck there. The only reason why this isn't a giant pain in the butt is because this case is, even for a small case of this type, because this is the smaller version of this case that Corsair did, but it's comparatively a large case for what it is. And it's got, I'm just going to wrap these around. I might not even have to zip tie. Yeah, I might not even have to zip tie that. There are certain places where this case has a lot of space that a normal case would not have. Ooh, and let's actually deal with these. Let's see here. So we're actually going to put these, we're going to zip tie these. With these smaller zip ties, just to kind of keep them all as... This is not a necessity. This just falls under the category of making it perfect, essentially. Always be very careful when you're working with these types of cables, because the tiniest slip of your clippers and it'll clip them. Now they are just basic cables, so you can always heat shrink them back together. I would rather not have to fix them. Particularly because I don't keep my my soldering and wiring and stuff quite as handy as my PC build stuff, and so that's just a whole nother set of tools and hardware and parts and consumables and stuff that I have to get out, and I don't want to have to. I'm not really set up for soldering at this desk either, so now, one of the advantages of doing stuff like this is that most motherboards have a fairly similar cable or cable location layout, and so especially like right now, I've been working with mostly ASUS motherboards. In my perfect world, I would rather use Gigabyte, but especially in this case, with a lot of these older builds that I'm planning on doing like SLI and stuff with, ASUS sells the most readily available workstation grade boards for these platforms. So there's a Workstation Z97, there's a Workstation X99, which I actually already have, there's a Workstation X299, there's a Workstation Z390, and they all have if I remember correctly, PLX chips, and they have tons of PCIe X16, which is what you need if you're going to do more than one or more than two dual, or more than, how do you call it, normal standard dual card SLI. So if you want to do like 3-way or 4-way SLI, to do it well, you kind of need those. And the other thing with those is that those workstation grade boards, those suckers have the ports positioned in such a way that when you're doing SLI, you're able to position your GPUs quite some distance from each other, which is kind of nice because it at least partially solves the problem that we typically had with SLI, where one of the cards would just get totally cooked. Because they were just, they would be mounted right next to each other. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting indeed. Yeah, this is not good. This does not have, I might have to drill these out. Come on. There we go. This was only intended to be used for liquid cooling, it appears. Let's see. Maybe some of my, maybe some of the smaller. Usually I like larger, beefier ones of these, but I might have to use. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to, oh, that's not even gonna work. This is not ideal. I think we can make it work. Yeah, so oh, come on. Yeah, this is not good. I didn't even realize that when I was looking at the case. I'm gonna need, I think I have some case fan screws that are pointy. Usually they're blunt, but I think I have a few that are pointy, and so we can use those. Let's see here. Yeah, it appears to be clearly set up for liquid cooling, in which case you would use smaller screws that would screw into the AIO. But because we're not using an AIO here, okay, it looks like I have some that are, so it looks like the black ones I was trying to use just don't have enough, I think they're softer metal. Okay, that's gonna work now. Okay, I think I have a solution here. Basically, I have to force the mounting screws in. Let's see if I can show you guys how much pressure I'm putting on them. So I've got there's one right there, and I've got to hold the fan, and then I just have to push really hard. And basically what I'm doing is enlarging the hole and forcing the screw in. Okay, so that worked. So then we got to do the other one. But at least I know how to do it now. Debating whether or not I want to put one on the top here, but I'm worried it will interfere with the airflow. Okay, so then the second one. Go there. Now, if I remember correctly, on the specs, I believe these Corsair ML fans run with something in the neighborhood of double the airflow, double or triple the airflow of a, this is going to be harder. Oh, maybe not. These things have double or triple the airflow. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like double or triple compared to your average, like your average modern fan, especially like the RGB fans. That's why with these builds, I'm not doing them RGB, is because generally speaking, high airflow performance fans are not available in RGB. Like the absolute highest performance fans you cannot generally get in RGB. And so I'm doing these builds where I'm testing, if I'm testing old hot parts, oh, sorry, you can't see that. There we go. If I'm testing old hot parts, I really want maximum airflow because, well, if nothing else, some of these GPUs that I'm working with are starting to get pretty rare, and I would like them to physically last. Okay. So we got, let's see, do I have two more? Let's see, 1, 2. Okay, so these can go to their own, these can each go to their own location. So we're going to do, these are going to be completely out of the way. There will be minimal, if any, visible fan cabling for these. Let's see here. Okay, there's that. And then do another one here. It's funny because I don't think this is actually intended for what I'm doing with it, but it works. Like I said, you got to get creative on these ones that don't, like if I were in my perfect world, there'd be little tie downs on this thing. Let's see here. Okay. And then we'll run these underneath here. This is actually going along. I think this will be done in probably 15 minutes. Once it's done, I'll show what the final build looks like too. Okay, so I think we had one that was up towards the top and one that was a little bit more towards the middle, if I remember right. So I'm trying to run these underneath everything to minimize zip tie usage. Okay, so I think we had, where did I put it? Yeah, we had one right here. You see it? Yeah, you can. So it's right up towards the top. I would rather avoid, and there's one right in the center there. I would rather avoid using fan splitters if I can. I would like it to be, when and if possible, I would rather have each fan go to its own header. Let's see here. So I don't think that's going to be long enough. I think it's right there. No, we're going to have to do this. We'll run this one up out this one. Oh yeah, that's the way to go. Okay. Bam. And then this is going to be, oh, actually, let's do this. Let's run it around here. And then we'll run the cable down here. And then this is a trick I've shown on some of my other build videos. You run the excess cable underneath the board, and that's how you kind of hide it. Okay. So we look on the on the other side. Bam. So that does that. We just zip tie them all together, and we are good to go. So I think oh yeah, and there's that. So that came out that way, just how I wanted it. Okay, I think we're good to go. I think the build's done. So then, the way this will work, oh, and I didn't even end up needing to use that, which means that was kind of a pointless waste. That's okay. It's a spare if I need it. Okay, so then the way that this will work is when I put a GPU in, so let's take our 780 here, for example. Put that in. I guess we'll run that for now. I don't have another card specifically on the test list. I just got this off eBay the other day, so I'm even considering posting this one on the local market and see if anyone's interested. Okay, so then the way that this will work is we'll run actually let's do this guy first to make sure it's the right one. Now, this is not something I would recommend doing if you're in the position where if you break something, you can't afford to fix it. If I blow up this entire computer, I'm going to be annoyed, but I also already have a full spare set of parts for this, and it wouldn't really be that big of a financial cost thing for me. So, but this cable isn't actually for this power supply, but in this case, I believe it'll work. But typically, if these aren't right and you turn the power supply on, typically it just won't turn on. So the situation where it just straight up melts because you use the wrong modular plugs, that's a lot more rare. It does happen, but it doesn't happen often. Typically, it just won't turn on and you have to pull the plug out. So let's see if this works. Okay, so we've got power. So if it powers on, that's all we need to know that this worked. Yep, so it worked. Those are putting out air. Dang. Let's see. Are they okay, they do blue. This is odd. What's going on here? That's not good. Our back... Okay, so that works. And then it looks like... Oh, that's not good. That did not go the way I wanted. So our back fan... Oh, now it's heavy. I forgot how heavy that is. So this is... Somehow one of the cables went in wrong. Let's see here. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, that'll be easier to fix than I was thinking. Somehow... Come on. The way I mounted it went wrong. Okay, that'll work. That should make it right. At least good enough to use. Okay, so then... Okay, yeah, so we're good there. Okay. So I thought I was going to have to pull the whole fan, but it looks like I don't have to. Okay, so that is the complete build. The ultimate at the moment, well, kind of the ultimate 2013. It's kind of, there's some parts here that are 2013, at the moment, and there are some parts that are 2014. It's really difficult to get everything. You would have to use, to get it dead on so that everything is period specific, you would have to use some older parts versus newer. So you would have to, either go by the GPU and then all the other components would need to be older, or you'd have to buy the CPU and then all other components older. That is the only way that you could fully do it, right? But this is close enough. These parts are all within 1 year. Okay, this is actually, let's see what it looks like in the dark. You should be able to see it on the camera. Let's see if you can see the blue lights. They're really dim. They're not very bright. You can kind of see them. Let's see. Let me turn the rest of the lights off and see. See if we can see it with all the lights out. Okay, let's see if you can see the glow. You see the blue glow? Oh, yeah, it's only a tiny bit. You can't really see it. Kind of sucks, but it'll have kind of a cool accent. Okay, let's see here. Now, in theory, once it gets into Windows, usually, if it's working properly, a single click, and it will eventually shut off because, yep, there it goes. So the standard way that Windows works, if you have not changed the power settings, is that one click on just sitting on your desktop, I can't speak to other things, but just sitting on your desktop, one click will effectively hit the power button. Okay, so my battery's about to die. We'll be back in a minute with how the build actually looks. So stay tuned. Okay, so there it is, our final build. Yeah, it was fun. Okay, I don't really have fun doing builds anymore because I do so dang many of them. But so this is what we ended up with. We've got an ASUS Maximus something Hero 6, 7. I think 7 is Z97. They've got so many of them now. Maximus, does it say? Maximus VII. I think that's 7. V is 5. I is 1. 7. I think that's how that works. So I kind of made a little bit of an adjustment on the cabling here. I kind of stuffed the extras. There's enough space to kind of stuff them in the back there, so we do that. And then for now, that's the GPU that's in it. I'll probably do a little bit of testing with the 780. I have a second 780. It's a totally different model, but I think I could probably SLI them, so maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I got two more. I got two higher end 780. They're non-TI, but they're two higher end Gigabyte 780s coming later in the week, this coming week. So I'll probably wait on the SLI until I get those. But a few other things. You got the Noctua NHD. I don't know if it's a 14 or 15. They're pretty similar, but it's an NHD 14 or NHD 15. 850 watt EVGA BQ. It's not the greatest, but it'll be sufficient for everything we're going to do with this build. Again, at the moment, fairly vanilla. Well, this isn't quite vanilla. It does take two 8-pins, so it's a mid-range. It's not the top-end 780, but it's a mid-range 780. Full set, you can't quite... let's see if I can get it in view. Oh, yeah, you can kind of see them. So, full set of Corsair ML. Those are the magnetic levitation, whatever fans. They put out pretty good airflow, though. I was actually surprised when they started blowing at how much air they put out. So, the heatsink fan is literally like a millimeter from being too much. So that's kind of interesting. And then on the front, there is an optical drive in the front. I did not hook it up. It's there, and maybe I'll order another cover plate just to be complete. Maybe not. I don't know yet. It's kind of a stupid thing to do, but maybe I'll do it. I don't know. And then I did remove the fan, the front fan netting. I wanted maximum possible cooling. So there's those that say they don't care, that it doesn't matter. Some say it do. I say it matters. I think I see cooling gains when I take them off. So I did remove the netting that was on there for dust filtration. I'm not too worried. I can clean a system. Okay, that's like not that hard to do. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at oh, and our really awesome Trident non-RGB DDR3. It's basically the fastest DDR3 you can get. Anyway, so that's that, and I hope you guys enjoyed another build video, and I would say build guide in the Corsair 450D. So thanks for watching.